Thank you. A very good afternoon to everyone here, and welcome to our session, Beyond Translation, Marketing to the Heartlands. I am Ahmed Aftab Naqvi, and it's a pleasure to have all of you here. For a long time, many brands have almost worked on two spectrums, two briefs, two approaches, one for India and one for Bharat. But the story has changed. The lines have blurred. And today, Bharat isn't just catching up, but it is India. And so have the playbooks changed. From discovery, beginning in local languages, to trust being built at micro levels with micro influencers. And the growth also coming from smaller towns, cities, villages. To explore this, I have this wonderful panel, and hopefully over the next 30 minutes, I think yes, we have that, I can deep dive into your minds and extract some learning, some nuggets of wisdom, which can help marketers at large make lesser mistakes and maximize the chances of success when it comes to marketing to the heartlands. So with that, hopefully we're going to learn not just about reach and resonance, but real results. And all of you are at the forefront of this entire drive and change, and maybe we can learn a bit or two about it. Let me start with a brand that truly lives in everyday India, Desh Ka Namak, Tata Salt. Raj, you and your team, Bharat marketing is not a new terminology for you, right? That's been happening over the years. And I do understand that voice has played a very important role in that, whether at stations, whether at bus stops. Tell us a bit more about why voice has become such an important element of really marketing at scale to Bharat.
Thank you. Thank you for a great start and looking forward to the discussion. See, one Desh Ka Namak. So the growth for us obviously comes maximum from rural. And when I'm saying rural, it is urban. And you spoke on your last line, results, right? Obviously very passionate, obsessive about the results, the growth that we do. What we realized is that it's classic Byron Sharp, which is that you reach to maximum number of people, maximum number of times. And what we have seen in Tata Salt is that we needed to bring the cost per reach down. So a typical cost per reach on TV is what, 36 paisa, right? 30 to 40 paisa generally. We needed to get it in 5 paisa because I don't have a bank full of like crores, right? So the budgets are always limited. What voice has helped is basically go very mass and go it at a 6, 7, 8 paisa per user, right? What it does is that obviously you reach maximum number of people at one go. What we did is basically, I'm sure all of us have heard Namak Ho Tata Ka Tata Namak. So just creating music which is very explanatory, like you have all seen Hema Rekha Jaya or Shushma Sabki Pasand Nirma. So that's the content I would request us to look at the content, or you already come across with that, and take that at a mass audio points. And the mass audio points in the country are, one obviously railway stations, completely MySpace because no brand clutter there, bus stands. You take it even the hearts, mandis, etc., etc. Similarly, obviously YouTube shorts, YouTube rural, right? So what we have been able to consistently focusing is that what can I deliver at 6, 7, 8 paisa? How can I go maximum mass, do my spurts in like the purchase cycle, and it has given us results.
Right. I'm just going to dig deeper into this point of content that you mentioned, right? Is there any very relevant example, because sometimes content translation just doesn't kick it. Sometimes you have to really think in those cultural nuances. Has Tata Namak, Tata Salt done something on that nature where you can give a live example of?
See, we have very different films for very different states. So it's a 3,000 crore plus brand. Individual states are like 200, 300 crores. So for us, these like brands, right? So UP for me, UP into Tata Salt is a brand for me. The content for UP is different from Tamil Nadu completely. So maybe just one example I can tell you is that agar UP bolega nakli ko nakalchi, then my film will say nakalchi namak आपकी सेहत पे भारी पड़ सकता है, versus when it goes to Bengal, it's a noon ra tata ra noon, and when it goes to Maharashtra, it will say asla tasla nai ho, mitha che tata che meet, right? So the nuance is not nuance is not very, it's not a hard-working nuance. It's subtle. Its cues of the culture goes very deep. And as
But
a
also
Marathi,
this word of nakalchi namak, would you also make someone say it which resonates more with those audiences, influencers, micro-influencers or celebrities?
yeah, so when we have money, we take once in a while, some celeb, and in this case, yes, we did. So it was Ravi Kishan in our case, right? And Ravi Kishan is very famous in, say, UP and Bihar. And when he spoke, right, and he speaks in that accent. We had Manoj Vajpayee in one of the other ads, not this. But then you talk to that in that accent. Similarly, when we did South film, it was the South actor. So in this case, we have Priyamani. So Priyamani speaks to that. So certainly it's very resonating to the mass. And it seems like mine because it is Desh Ka Namak, it has to be yours. It is actually
Sure.
mine.
No, that's great and lovely learnings from that. But obviously, when it comes, Shetanshu, to your brand, Pernod, I think there are a lot more, you have to be a lot more responsible in the way you localize your content as well, right? And different regions have different ways in which they celebrate. And translating that celebration to your product, to your brand, is something that has to be done very responsibility. How do you really approach it? And how is local marketing in the hinterlands really work for you?
No, so India for us is not just one market. India for us is divided into different markets because each market behaves differently, of course, for every marketeer. But for us, every state has different ways of working. Every state has different LDAs, legal drinking age, right? And what you say and how you say is really important. For us, unlike, again, as a marketer, is the objective is to talk relatively, right? Unlike Desh Ka Namak, we cannot go on quantum. We cannot go on mass reach. For us, it becomes really important that you own a particular culture, you hack the culture completely. Let me give you an example. One of our brands, Royal Stag, has been talking about live it large for the last 24, 25 years now. They've talked about democratizing success. They were the first brand in India to actually get sports stars as a forefront in advertising. You talk about any sports star, it was owned by Royal Stag. Right from a Mitchell Stark to a Curtly Ambrose to a Shane Warne, right? To your Rohit Sharmas or the Boomerahs of the world today. So we were very clear in our approach that you want to hack culture. And you don't want to localize it. You want to hack culture and you want to go the last mile. Be very clear because the moment I hack the culture, you need to own it completely. Owning and hacking a culture is built on continuity and longevity. Desh Ka Namak has been for decades now. Live it large has been for decades now. As a marketeer, we actually face guilt, and actually we are guilty that the marketing communication changes so rapidly in this dynamic world today. We are not being true to the communication. So it becomes really important that you stay true, you own one insight, and you own one communication for long. Of course, localization, is the next step. But you need to own a communication completely. And brands like Royal Stag or brands like Blender's Pride, which has owned fashion completely. So I think you need to own one language and you need to stay true to it. If you're not staying true to it, then you are being too dynamic in this ever-evolving world, which I think is as marketeers, we are guilty for it. So we need to be true to what you say and how you say.
That's a great insight. Obviously, brands are not built in a day, a month, a year, but decades. And staying true, not being in this dynamic world, ever changing, and sometimes staying true to what you really believe in the core inside, and really building that is the way forward. Let me get Sujala's perspective on this. Sujala, your category runs very deep on emotions and culture as well, right? While Platinum is aspiration is very personal as well. When you're really communicating to Bharat at large, is there any change in your communication? Is there any localization that you're experimenting with and you've seen success in?
Yeah, so for us, like you rightly said, when it comes to jewelry, there are regional variances that play up all through. There are some centers that are precious stone forward, and then there are some cities and some geographies which are metal forward. And therefore for us, I think this regionalization or localization starts from product. I think that being the first point, because the category is so personal and it's so emotional, what we try and inculcate is actually, cultural integration. So we try and look at norms, we try and look at belief systems, we try and look at symbols. I think language is just a natural fallout. I think the rest of the ecosystem is far more vital. So we kind of look at that because we do realize that driving cultural relevance is a growth driver and also a big differentiator. So just to give you an example, one of our brands in the portfolio is Platinum Love Bands. And Platinum Love Bands sits on the premise of a love that's truly rare. Talking to women and the value system is what women look for, young women look for in a relationship. And that, for example, varies. In the metros, that view is very individualistic. So a young woman will say that for me, it's important to grow, flourish within a relationship. Whereas in South, it plays out very differently because what they look forward to is a very role-based partnership where they feel what we bring to the table is of equal importance as what he brings to the table. So it's such a big difference trade-off. Or even if you talk about the mini metros, where the view on love and relationships is far more romantic as it is in the larger centers where it's far more individualistic and far more partnership based. So those kind of differences play out. We are lucky to have a set of brands that sort of sit on a universal truth, and that universal truth can then encompass many, many nuances and many, many variations. So another example is another of our brands, which is Men of Platinum, which sits on success that is built out of character and values. And when it comes to values, for instance, what is aspirational and inspirational in one part of the country may not be the same. So there is a part of the country that values courage, but there is another part of the country that values humility. So, these variances is what we see through, and the brand world ultimately is a sum of total. So we try and inculcate it. There won't be one key asset that loads this all on, but there is a story and a narrative through various touch points, and we inculcate these pieces in. And also things like meme marketing or things like community, they're all language first. So I think that's where we...
So on meme marketing, for a premium aspirational brand, is that something one of your brands has experimented with and seen success?
Yeah, because like I said, one of our brands is Men of Platinum and rests on cricket as a growth lever actually. And within the space of cricket, our ambassador is MS Dhoni. And within the space of cricket, meme marketing is a natural extension. So there is a way that we do it. I don't think we'll go like bonkers, but there is a way that we do it. And given the turf of sport, it's fine.
I want to ask a follow-up question to that. I think a lot of people in audiences would be interested to know that for a premium category product and influencers at a local level, which are micro-influencers, is that something that could be leveraged? Is that something that you've experimented with? Is that something works for you?
Yeah, so, I think the way we look at it is the fact that each of our brands is based on a certain universal truth, which is a bigger idea, and that bigger idea can have many local interpretations. But the point is to look at local influencers through the lens of authenticity. It's, it's not so much as a vanity metric of number of followers as much as it is about, depth of trust, emotional equity. If a brand stands for character, then essentially the person needs to portray that in every way. Sure. Otherwise, the backlash is just not worth it, obviously.
Very well put, Sujala.
Just to add, imperfection is the new perfection. That's the trend.
Perfection is the new perfection.
You have to be imperfect to be perfect. Films are leveraging it in storytelling. Authenticity, of course, is an over-cliched used word in the last 3 years, but it's staying true to content. You need to be authentic. You need to be who you are. As rightly pointed out, experiment and see how it works. When we tried, it delivered results, but you cannot go bonkers because that's your brand world. You have certain brand world, right? You can't go beyond your brand world as well.
Correct. No, absolutely, absolutely. Harmeet, let me get you into the conversation. And for Body Shop, at a larger level, there is a storytelling, which are your core values, which people believe in. how do you really communicate that to Bharat at large? And is your brand storytelling also leveraging influencers for the same?
Thank you. Yeah, I hope you can hear me now. Yeah. So very interesting question. Thank you. So first to talk about Bharat at large and how we inculcate the culture, because of course the Body Shop is an international brand. I think nevertheless we all know that any brand internationally who comes to India have to adopt to the cultural nuances, have to connect with the consumers rather than just staying out and saying that, oh, we are the international brand and this is the way we do it. So I would just, I have many examples to give actually, many programs, many campaigns what the Body Shop has done, which would actually, the consumers would connect with. The latest one, the latest festive campaign which we just launched very recently, that's Mark a Change, wherein we have reflected on the intergenerational bond, of a grandmother with her granddaughters and family bonding. Also the setup, the Indian setup as we have shown, and how it's not, the product is not the focus is actually the inclusivity in terms of how we want to highlight on these values of the Body Shop, that is inclusivity and family bonding, and also the love and the bond what in India you experience with your friends and family. So I would say this is not only the latest, the current campaign which is running, but we have been doing that with many more programs in the past what we have undertaken. To give you a list, we did something last year also in December, a great campaign where it highlighted the LGBTQA community, where we wanted to give out the messaging. Not only, of course, Body Shop, is the brand which stays true to its sustainability and commitment, and of course the ethical beauty, the ethical beauty claim, but also the LGBTQA community where the inclusivity was very important. So we started highlighting this through our programs, and I think it was very well received in terms of how the consumers resonated with the campaign. That.
Did you see a difference between your consumer resonating with it in urban cities vis-a-vis in villages and towns? For example, when you did this campaign, is there a learning there? Is there an insight there in terms of the behavior to really resonate with ideas that you mentioned?
Sorry, I mean to say you're talking about the
campaign?
The campaign with tier 1 cities with the tier 2 and 3 cities.
Correct.
So just to give you the context, tier 2 and tier 3 have been our focus since many years. So any campaign or any program what we do, we always keep in mind that the consumers have to understand that campaign. They have to understand the essence of the messaging what we are trying to give out. So I would say recently we did a Raksha Bandhan campaign. It was a very small campaign, but a beautifully articulated, where we collaborated with Terraco. These are the artisans, and it is all about the female empowerment and supporting communities, where such a small community based out of Panchkula, we actually brought out that how beautifully they work, and we took actually Rakhis from them and we included that in our gift boxes. So, to bring out that nuance of the cultural nuance and the female empowerment, and to showcase it in our programs, it actually would, I would say it would actually connect very closely with all the audience, not only the metro, but also the tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Let me get Meha into the conversation. Meha, for Samsonite, when you're reaching out to Bharat, what is working for you and what is not working for you? Can you give us a peep into your playbook?
Yeah. So firstly, a context of the brand, pretty much like Body Shop, right? Samsonite as well is an international brand, and we're the global leaders in our category, and we're the most premium brand in the country in this category. So for a very long time, most of our revenues came in from metros, because that's where quintessentially the money resided in the marketing narrative of things. There are two macro trends because of which tier 2 is coming up as a big business sort of driver for us. One, of course, is the narrative of holidays has changed, right? So it's no more Nani Ka Ghar or a pilgrimage that is a holiday. It's even the tier 2 India is doing solo trips, they're doing trips with their partners, they're doing family trips, they're doing 3 holidays a year. So that's a big macro trend. The other macro trend is that because of social media, I think premium brands are democratized in some sense, even in these areas of the country. So second, third, fourth generation business families, entrepreneurs, etc. While they have to reside where they have to reside for work, they want to bridge that gap with metro and tier 2 by using certain brands that make them feel like they are closer to the globe. So these two macro trends are working for international brands, premium brands, and for our brand as well. For us, I think there's a certain brand voice we have. I mean, language is a part of it, but there's a certain tonality and a brand voice that we have that we don't want to move away from. What we although do is, localize in the sense that there are a lot of cultural nuances that we take into some pieces of communication. If I have to give you one example, and Diwali is coming up, so it's a perfect example. We've done a campaign called Diwali Ka Safar. Now, Samsonite is a thought leader brand, given it's the most premium in the category. We did a piece of content where we thanked people who sacrificed their Diwalis to make ours happy, right? So, airline staff or cab drivers or bus drivers and everybody who's working on that day. And there was no forced fit brand integration. It was just a nice, warm piece of content where we thanked, showed empathy, and then it ended with the brand coming in. So the idea, and of course, I mean the language, because it was so rooted in culture, we could do it in Hindi. So it wasn't really a translation of, okay, let's have an English piece of content and then let's dub it for this geography and then run that content in that area. That playbook, I think, is about 6-7 years old now in the FMCG scheme of things. So we did that, and that really resonated with consumers, right? So the idea was to sort of be an empathetic brand, and then the cultural nuance followed through. So it wasn't really a forced fit, so to say. So the localization that we do is not translation or performative. It's essentially localization of emotions and thoughts, and then whatever language it is, it follows through. A couple of other things that we do sometimes is, for example, through products, which is, I think, is the king across brands and categories, is that we understand some things work in certain areas, right? So, for example, let's say at the cost of stereotyping, let's say a lot of designer stuff would work really well in North. So we have sub-brands. We have a sub-brand called Samsonite Black Label, which is very premium. A lot of designer collaborations with Samsonite Black Label work very well in North. Versus Bombay, where there's a lot of working audience. So a lot of work-led kind of products work a lot better in Bombay. So we make sure even the product assortment has that level of or layer of localization, so to say. So there are many ways we localize. One more that comes to mind is the way we work with media platforms and marketplaces to how we are found, right? So in our nomenclature, we would love for a consumer to write Samsonite cabin bag under 10,000, but that's not how consumers search. They would typically write trolley bag, strong trolley bag at 10,000. So it's essentially where we midway meet our consumers in the way we are found without losing our voice, but acknowledging the way consumers search us. So there are various pockets of how we localize. It goes beyond words and language, but essentially culturally more rooted.
That's very insightful. Meha, you also mentioned search and how consumers are searching for your brand. Are they now searching also on the GPTs of the world? And is that being factored, like for example, which is the best suitcase, and then trying to capture them there? Is that something a part of your playbook or you're thinking about?
We're thinking about it. It's not something that we've actively sort of started doing. Of course, there's a lot of chatter on consumers searching on AI now. But what inherently brands can do is make sure your content is up to mark, right? Let's say if you have a D2C, which we do, if your content is up to date on your D2C, if your FAQs are perfect, if the way you've explained each product is good enough, if you've used the right keywords to explain your products, then you will automatically appear in even on AI platforms when consumers are searching you. Instead of sort of, manufacturing that in some way, which is not very authentic in some sense. So we've not started doing something with these AI platforms, but we make sure our content is up to date so it naturally appears in. And having the tag of global leader helps us inherently. So.
Absolutely, great. Thank you for that. Suruchi, would love your insights, some of your learnings, when you're marketing to Bharat at large, what you're doing and more importantly, what you're not doing.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, very interesting insights and takeaways here, how premium brands are catering to tier 2, tier 3 markets now. For Bajaj, we've always been an Indian brand, so it's the other way around, I can say, where we were earlier focused on our regional consumer marketing, be it Durga Puja marketing for Kolkata market or for in like Maharashtra. Now the Abhyang Snan campaign is on for Bajaj Consumer Care for Diwali. So every state and every like India, we were discussing, has a different cultural nuances, and we have been all focusing on how we can tap those. But now with the shift that's happening with digital platforms, channels, and the overall boom with internet coming in, I think the consumers are also looking for something which is not really so focused on something which has been happening for the years. So now we are also looking at how we can offer something, staying true to our brand language, how we can reach out to our consumers with something that they have in mind. What are they looking out for? Like I can talk about what are the demands. If it is natural products, then how we can incorporate natural ingredients to our products, and how we can really communicate it to them in the right way. So I think that is where one thing I would like to really highlight, that the shift that we are seeing is that consumer is again reaching out to the brands very actively, and that is where we are able to understand the requirements of our target audience, and it's a nice time where we are really able to communicate with them back, and they are able to communicate with us. So that's the very
good part
of social media and the digital boom. And in those terms, I think even we were having a session with AI. So how just before this, so how that's really helping us to make our content in a fast-paced manner, and then all of us are also talking about the content that's going out. So it's so much of a, like I can say, a content factory that's going on with all the brands talking about festive campaigns, talking about reaching out to your audience in new trending viral reels or some new formats on Instagram and stuff. But within that, staying true to our brand language is something that we all have to continue doing. And I think digital shift is all about how we are creating content in a dynamic manner now. And we were just discussing about the music library that Gaurav is going to talk about. And it's wonderful to see how we are able to create this wonderful content for our brands, reaching out to the right audience and taking their feedback again. I think that's the most interesting part for me, and that's where I see the shift.
Great. No, I think one thing that stands common is staying true to your brand voice. I think all of us are very resonating with that and staying up to date with what the platforms have to offer. Let me get Gaurav into the conversation. Music, such a universal language, transcends languages, transcends barriers, gets people together. How can music be this powerful tool to really, for brands to connect with Bharat at large?
Well, I don't think there's anybody here who doubts that music today is an integral part of storytelling. In fact, back in 2021 when we began Hoopr, we had the same client wanted a song in Marathi, the same feel in Telugu and Bengali. And Hoopr did not exist at that point in time. I was a music director. So we went to platforms which are international platforms like your Envato, Shutterstock, and we couldn't find that kind of music. And we realized that this problem is going to become even bigger and bigger. And we built Hoopr, which today caters to over 170 brands and close to 400,000 influencers who are making videos every day and using music as an integral part to tell their story. I could pretty much relate to every single panelist here, because what you all would have realized is every brand has its own identity, its own DNA. The storytelling is different, and hence the music that you use, the artists you will work with, is very different. So for us at Hoopr, it's often a whirlwind trying to be the, let's say the bridge between what a brand will want and what we need to provide. So on a day where, say, a brand like a Myntra, Amazon Creator Central, or let's say a Plum or a Blue Tokai would want cool new age independent tracks, we also have traditional brands, pan-India brands. So we've got ITC, Himalaya that might want different tracks in regional languages. We also realize that within India itself, every state, listens to different music. And within every state, there is somebody doing indie work which cuts through to the Gen Z. There is somebody doing commercial work which, let's say, we have Bollywood at a pan-India level, but har state ka apna ek commercial hit sound hota hai. And then there is also a lot of folk and traditional music. So we look at ourselves as a partner who has to help the brand tell the right story with the music. Even influencers. There could be an Ashish Vidyarthi who uses music in a certain way on our platform, to a Sadhguru who wants, let's say, spiritual music, to Mr. Devendra Fadnavis's YouTube channel that might want very powerful music. We have to give everything on the platform. We have just launched Bollywood also, so you get copyright safe Bollywood music too. I saw the AI presentation, brilliant. We might have 5x more videos coming in, but not just because I'm the founder of Hoopr, but genuine message to everybody: use music legally. It is very important to use trending songs and so on, but you don't want that lawsuit, you don't want that copyright strike. So we just got Yashraj Films, 21 other labels across songs like Badshah, Neha Kakkad and so on the platform, which are available in the thousands for you to license on a daily basis. So I think one level pay we see that we have to enable every single brand to get the kind of music they would need. What a body shop would need would be very different from a Platinum Guild to a Bajaj to Tata Salt, right? So that's one part of our business. The other part is also more bespoke and more custom, which is, I would say there we often play an advisor role too, in terms of what music should you use. Just because a song is trending does not mean your brand should use it. For all you know, it's a terrible choice and you might get a little bit of an uplift on social media, but your brand ideally should not have used that track. So there we get into a bespoke solution. I would share a couple of examples where, since our topic is about connecting with the Heartlands, ITC has a very popular chips brand called Bingo Tede Mede, and they wanted to strengthen their presence in UP and Bihar. So we did a bit of a research. We have a framework called the AMP framework, the Artist, Music and the Promotions framework, and we realized that the right singer for this is a gentleman called Khesari Lal Yadav. And we created 4 different songs in Bhojpuri, put it up on Spotify to see which one actually resonates with that audience before even recording that song with a Khesari. And then we did that particular one, it did extremely well. Similarly, Ultratech Cement came to us with a very interesting requirement that they wanted to cater to the migrant worker who moves from a village to a city, and usko life में एक ambition है कि उसको घर बनाना है अपना, वो जो पक्के कच्चे घर में रहता है उसको घर बनाना है. So we sort of studied that brand inside out. We realized what they do. On one side, they would build the biggest bridges with a Shah Rukh Khan, but they also are catering to this person, right? And we realized that, again, in UP and Bihar, Chhat is a very important glue, right? So we got the right lyricists to write it, and we made it in Hindi and in Bhojpuri. And beautiful lines, right? पिछले छठ जो मांगी थी वो मन्नत पाली है, अपने हाथों अपने घर की नींव डाली है, लौट के मैं जहाँ जाऊँगा अपने इरादों सा मजबूत गांव में एक घर बनाऊँगा. That song did extremely well for them, and now they're expanding that into a huge campaign. Lastly, I would just like to say that, again, if I were to sit, let's say, with Harmeet versus Sujala, it would be a very different bit, right? And we are just creating 100 songs with universal music, which are only Gen Z, which are English, in the space of, say, a Hanuman kind, and so on. Every brand has its requirement. Even on the platform, what we've tried to do, if you go to Hoopr today, let's say, Raj, you want to use a particular track, your social media team, but the track happens to be in a language they don't understand. Say it's a Telugu song. Do you know whether it's the right fit for your brand? So using AI, we've built a tool where just all you need to do is put your Instagram handle. It'll tell you exactly how well the song fits your brand voice, something Aftab you just spoke of. And it'll actually give you exactly the video you need to make in the context of your brand with that song to get more ROI or a better result, right? So the way I look at it is music is going to play a larger role. If a brand today is not using music as effectively as they should or as sustainably, well, we are here for the next half an hour, 45 minutes. But on a serious note, I think it is cutting through India and appealing to the heartlands.
I think Gaurav has given us a very actionable playbook as to what could define marketing for the heartlands for the next few years and possibly the decade. And on that same note, I think I have enough time to squeeze in the same question to our other panelists as well, as to what is that one actionable advice that you would always keep in your playbook, or you'd advise other marketers when they're reaching out to market to the heartlands. Maybe I can kickstart in no particular order. Sujala, with you, possibly. Yes.
I think it's the most obvious one, but I'll still go ahead and say it. I think, when you're creating, a lot of people mistake translation for creation, and that's not it. Which is why I think, you need to take a pause and see. Unfortunately, the world of translation has not evolved much, and a lot of what we get back is the same crib is very, very literal. And hence, therefore, what one must look at is more of a cultural integration, because it may not be an equal to. There are different interpretations possible when you sit on brand terms like relationships, like character, things like that, or even individuality, which is what Platinum Ivara, our women-centric brand, stands for. Interpretations are many. We don't need to translate them. Finding what is relevant and creating a piece out of that makes far more sense than just translating.
Not just translation. Harmeet, what would yours be?
I'll be very short, and just the advice would be that's what, when the whole team is brainstorming about a particular campaign, like what to do and how to do it, we all say that, okay, we are an international brand, but we have to definitely connect and resonate with all the consumers. Keep it simple, keep it real, because that's what the Body Shop stands for, that we are very, very real, authentic brand, and very real values, I would say. So through all our programs, what we do and what we would like to do always is, we like to communicate the values, what we stand for, which are actually, I would say, this is not bookish, but it's a 50-year-old brand now. We'll be celebrating 50 years next year. But 50 years and sustainability, nobody had even heard of. What is sustainability? What is ethical? What is ethical, ethical ingredients, and how authentic you can be. But all this started 50 years back. So these values is what we actually incorporate in any plan or any campaign what we build, and we want to resonate with all the consumers. So we in India, we make sure that we are understood and well received in terms of what we want to convey, even to a tier 2, tier 3 and a tier 4 as well, to that matter.
Staying true to values and ensuring they are easily understood by
Yes.
audiences at large.
Yeah.
Right. Meha, what would yours be?
I think the way that playbook for Heartland is going to evolve is that we'll all have to think beyond language. I think about 5-7 years ago, it was a classic playbook of language and make the language relevant and the brand will become relevant. I think that audience has evolved, and now in fact they don't want a simplified ad campaign from a metro 30-second edit simplified to be relevant to, let's say, somebody sitting in a Kanpur. They want to be a part of the global narrative. So just make sure that you make your brand accessible, make it relevant. Of course, cliched, overused words, but I mean, they're true. But just make sure that it's still the global brand voice if you're a global brand, and make them feel a part of the global narrative and don't oversimplify it for them. That's not going to be the playbook anymore.
That's a very useful insight. Make them feel a part of the global narrative as well. Perfect. Suruchi, what would yours be?
Exactly, and like I said, empowering your consumer, because they are now not just those regional consumers that we were happy with, whatever is coming their way. They are coming back with their feedback. So I think about them as your valued audience and how you can empower them in certain way with your communication. I think that's going to go a long way, is what I can say. Yeah.
Thank you. Gaurav, I know yours is power of music, but you want to add anything more to it?
Well, I just like to say, meet your consumer where they are. We are talking about the power of Heartlands, and I think let's not underestimate our consumers there. Today, they have as much money and as much paying propensity as sometimes folks from the urban, places. I have a very quick story to share over here. When we launched Hoopr, for a long time, we were catering a lot to urban content creators. We felt those are the ones who will actually music licensing or kisko pata hoga kind of a mindset. Then I read an article put up by Mr. Anand Mahindra where he was celebrating a truck driver named Rajesh Ravani, and he was inspired by a story that he bought a house with 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and I was very impressed. So I reached out to my team saying we should give a free subscription to Rajesh ji. Turned out that Rajesh was using Hoopr for the last 1 year. And not only him, there were another 40 truck drivers who were using the platform, which came as a shock to us that there are actually people who are in the remotest parts of India who are actually buying your products, who are very smart, who are using GPT, who know exactly everything that you sitting in a tier 1 city would know. So I think let's not underestimate our consumer, and we've got to meet them where they are in the language that they speak.
Very well put, Gaurav. Let's not underestimate anyone. Shetanshu, would you like to add to that?
Just to add, I think don't be transactional. This finger of ours actually travels almost 600 meters every day on the mobile, right? So 800 content pieces seen every day by this eyes, right? So stay true. जो दिखता है वो नहीं बिकता है, जो अटैच करता है नहीं जो दिखता है वो बिकता नहीं है. I would say जो अटैच करता है वो बिकता है in the long run. So transactional बिक जाएगा, but in the long run you need to attach the heart, right? And that's where storytelling, staying true becomes important. So experiment, see the value, but stay true to who you are. Don't change yourself because consumers are really smart. So yeah, that's
well put. Raj?
A lot has been spoken on content. I think one of the struggle we will see in next 2 years, even more so, is where do we catch the consumer, because the screens are just splitting. And understanding digital, it's still not understood as a space, and as much more I talk to people, I get that everybody is in a flux. I think we'll need to figure out how do I get that consumer to go for a 3+, 5+ reach, and I don't know where is it that the guy is. Right, so I think in a lot more experimenting, and what I experiment this year won't be true next year. Right, so I think at least another 5 years until digital becomes significantly more, right, which we'll all see in front of us. We'll have to learn the language, or we'll have to learn the way we reach with all the content we make to the end consumer, so that she or he can really buy my brand.
Great insights, Raj, and to all our panelists, I think thank you very much for giving us such grounded insights, very candid, very honest with what you have to share with the audience. And I think one theme that really comes out across is staying true to the brand, not underestimating anyone, especially not a customer, and also thinking, acting, behaving like a lean startup when you're doing your marketing, experimenting a lot. And when you're getting the right fit, possibly scaling those experiments to large. So with that, come to the end of this panel. Thank you so much, everyone, for this insightful discussion. Thanks.